Happy Wednesday. Here we are. Um, Rome is famous for many, many pigeons, having a lot of pigeons around. However, these are more of a seagull variety that's back here, a seagull variety of bird that's flying around me. Luckily, I won't it won't turn messy here. I'll just read. You guys, I think I dimmed the sound, so it's just on, the mic is just on me, so you can't really hear them, but they are pretty loud right here. All right, so this is chapter 16, cheap soap, burned oil, and onions. The boys had to go twice around the state archives building on the forum before they found on a quiet side lane the entrance to the censor's office. At the door stood an armed guard, a tough-looking young man. "What are you kids after?" he asked harshly. Mucius repeated the formula they had decided on. "We must speak to the censor's officials," he said, as innocently as possible. "What's your business with them?" the guard asked, leaning indifferently against the wall. He took off his helmet and wiped his brow, for the day had grown rather warm. "We are bringing an important message," Mucius lied with a straight face. "A sensational story," Antonius added, nodding vigorously. "Do you have credentials?" the guard asked, plunking his helmet on his head. "Well, we don't need any," Mucius said. "The story is about us." "Then go to the devil," the guard said without interest. The boys retreated to a shady corner under the colonnades of the State Archives building, where they could keep an eye on the guard. Their plan had fallen flat, but by all their calculations, the guard should have admitted them when they claimed to have important news. Now they would have to think up something else. Caius, whom they had taken along on a probationary basis, suggested pushing the guard aside and running into the building. "If you don't care to try it, I'll do it by myself," he said, throwing fierce looks at the brawny fellow lounging in the doorway. "You think you're a Hercules?" Publius scoffed. "No violence," Mucius said. "That would spoil everything. We must use our heads." Julius nodded. "Let's tell him the truth," he proposed, rubbing his nose thoughtfully. "You do that," Mucius decided. They approached the entrance again. The guard had sat down on the base of a column and was lovingly polishing his sword, which already gleamed like a metal mirror in the sunlight. He looked up in surprise as the boys trooped up to him once more. "So you're here again," he said. "We have a great favor to beg of you," Julius began flatteringly. "Yes?" the guard asked skeptically. "Listen, kids, I'm just on guard here. I can't do anything for you." "We would not ask you to," Julius said, standing on his dignity. "All we wanted to do was check something with the official who takes the late news at night." "Do you mean Megabates?" the guard said. "Yes, he's the one we mean," Publius grinned. "A Greek, isn't he?" Mucius asked quickly. He recognized Megabates as a Greek name. "Can we see him?" Julius asked. "Megabates isn't around yet," the guard replied. "He's on night duty, so he gets his sleep in the morning." "He doesn't live far from here, does he?" Julius asked at a hazard. "If you know him so well, you must know his address too," the guard said slyly. "Of course we know his address," Antonius burst out. "It's just slipped our minds. Sometimes we almost forget where our school is." The guard laughed. He liked the boys. It wasn't too long ago since he himself had played hooky from school on a spring day. That hooky means to ditch school, not to go play instead. "Megabates lives in a house on Patrician Street, right on the corner of Sabura," he said. "But now clear out of here," he roared good-naturedly, and he jokingly raised his sword. "Thank you very much," the boys called as they ran off in high spirits. They turned the corner and were once more in the forum. The big square was swarming with people who had been lured out by the warmth of this first real spring day. The sun was shining, the sky was a brilliant blue, and a gentle breeze which smelled of spring blew from the south. Everybody looked happy, and the dazzling white togas and tunics the people wore showed that they had fetched out their finest clothes to celebrate so fine a day. But the boys weren't out for a leisurely promenade. They plowed their way through the crowd using their elbows to good purpose. As they pushed on, Mucius glanced at the gloomy city jail at the foot of the Capitol. "There's where Rufus is," he said, stopping in his tracks. The others stared at the prison. It must be awful in there, Flavius murmured. The prisoners are kept deep underground, Antonius said. Maybe we could dig a tunnel and free Rufus, Caius proposed. Publius laughed at him. Where would you start to dig? He asked. Right here in the forum? In front of the whole world? Caius took offense. All you can ever do is make silly jokes, he snorted, starting toward him. It's just that you're too dumb to understand them, Publius retorted, clenching his fist. Shut up, Busius warned, stepping between them. People are staring at us. If you want to fight, do it when you're alone. The boys moved on. They made their way to the Senate building, took a less crowded side street, and soon reached the gorge known as Subura. As they approached the corner of Patrician Street, they saw a building, or they saw the building the guard must have been referring to. It was a shabby 5-story tenement. The lower story consisted entirely of wretched little stores, mere niches in the building, with goods spread out on the sidewalk. On the corner was a barber's booth. The barber was standing in the street cutting a customer's hair with an enormous pair of shears. The man sat submissively on a stool, and a group of street boys stood around, following the proceedings with interest. Next door, there was a butcher shop. The meat hung on big hooks set into the wall. Then came a booth with a goat's head carved in stone above the entrance, indicating that this was where milk was sold. After that came a laundry, a vegetable shop, and a dirty tavern. The boys wondered how to get into the building since they saw no entrance. Finally, Mucius asked the barber where the door was. Around the back, the barber said, jerking his shears over his shoulder toward Patrician Street. At the corner of the building, the boys struck a narrow, well-trodden path, evidently much used by the rightful inhabitants of the place. This path had led into the backyard, and from there the tenement did not look quite as ugly as from the front. Along all the stories ran roofed galleries from which at intervals tiny open balconies projected. Assorted potted plants sent forth vines and greenery which jutted and trailed over the railings of the balconies. Wooden steps led from the yard up to the galleries. The yard itself was paved with large flagstones, and there was a fountain in the center of it. Off to one side, 3 small girls were jumping rope. They stopped playing when the well-dressed boys came in and gaped in wonder. The boys are wealthy. Remember, we talked about that earlier. And this is a tenement. A tenement is like an apartment building where there's a lot of people that live in this one building. So this is kind of where the poor, well, really the average citizens of Rome, which were rather poor, compared to these boys. So they're living kind of in a dirty, shabby, big apartment building where everybody's real close together. The boys strolled toward the building and took the staircase, whose steps were worn and smooth by much traffic. I'll bet nothing but criminals live here, Antonius said. You're letting your imagination run away again, Julius said. This is the kind of place where craftsmen, shopkeepers, and freed slaves live. The majority of them are Greeks and Arabs. They are not criminals. So that's good. I like that Julius was sticking up for them. Just because they have a lot less money than the boys' families do doesn't mean they're all criminals. This was the first time the boys had ever entered a tenement house, and they felt like explorers. On the lowest gallery, they stopped in confusion. A number of doorways, covered only by curtains, led to the interior of the building. From behind these curtains, they could hear all sorts of noises: dishes rattling, children whining, shrill women's voices, and hoarse men's voices quarreling. Dogs were barking, and somewhere a young man was crooning a sentimental song. There was a smell of cheap soap, burned oil, and onions. I feel sick to my stomach, Flavius murmured. No backing down now, Mucius said. We'll never find Megabates in this hive, Flavius said. We'll have to ask, Mucius said, and boldly pulled aside the nearest curtain. They found themselves looking into a tiny kitchen. A sturdy woman was standing over a steaming trough, scrubbing clothes on a wooden board. She looked up, her face flushed with heat and annoyance, and shouted, "Get out of here, you rascals!" The boys hastily withdrew. A little old man clad in rags came along the gallery towards them, walking unsteadily. The boys approached him. Where does Megabates live? They asked. The old man chuckled and started to babble at great length. The boys did not understand so much as a syllable of his speech. He smelled strongly of wine, which made them uneasy, but he seemed eager to be of help, for he went on chattering and pointing upward with a dirty finger. I guess Megabates lives further up, Mucius said to his friends. But where? Publius asked. On the roof? Wait, I have an idea, Julius said, turning to Publius. Do any of you happen to have a charcoal pencil with you? I do, said Publius, producing one from the pocket of his tunic. Julius took possession of the pencil and went over to the wall, calling, Hey, you, to the old man. The man looked at him with a vacant smile. Julius waved the pencil in the air to hold the old fellow's attention. Then he drew on the wall a staircase, and after it put a large question mark. The old man realized what Julius wanted, took the pencil from him, and made 5 long dashes beside the question mark. Under these, he placed 3 small dashes. Then he pocketed the pencil and reeled off down the stairs. The boys saw him staggering across the yard, heading for the tavern. My pencil, Publius protested. Let him keep the pencil, Mucius said. The old boy has done us a service. How come? Caius wanted to know. What are those marks supposed to mean? The others laughed at his slowness. Megabates lives on the 5th floor, you idiot, Julius explained. But what are the 3 small dashes for? Flavius asked. Maybe the 3rd door, Mucius said hopefully. He had guessed right. For now, they noticed that all the doorways were numbered. They climbed the wooden steps to the 5th gallery, where they stopped in front of the door marked 3. Mucius pounded his fist against the curtain, but this action produced no sound at all, merely a dense cloud of dust. When he called out, Does Megabates live here? Whereupon a voice replied, Come in. I don't think we need to take off our sandals here, Mucius whispered to the others as he entered. It's custom to take off your sandals before entering a house, but this tenement building, and it's dirty, he doesn't think that's the custom here, but they wouldn't know. Apparently, the newspaper man's job was not very highly paid. Megabates' apartment consisted of a single poorly furnished, windowless room. In one corner was a small open fireplace in which a fire was burning. In the other corner, a straw pallet lay on the floor, probably the bed. Along the walls were nails from which hung clothing and blankets. Megabates was seated at the table with a steaming bowl of peas and sausage, which he was eating slowly. Beside the bowl lay a large piece of bread and a broad-bladed dagger-like knife. The censor's official was a rather pinched-looking elderly man whose pointed gray beard reminded the boys of Xanthippus. He went right on with his meal. Finally, he growled with full mouth. Who are you? Are you Megabates? Mucius asked. What do you want? We have something very important to discuss with you, Mucius said. I am Megabates, but I cannot discuss anything now, Megabates growled, completely absorbed in his peas and sausage. Forgive us for disturbing you, but we are in a great hurry, Mucius apologized. I'm in a hurry too, Megabates said. I must get to my office. Come back tomorrow. This seemed to settle the affair as far as he was concerned, for with his fingers he lifted another chunk of sausage to his mouth. Mucius did not give up. We only wanted to know whether you received the news reports night before last at the censor's office, he said. I did, Megabates said indistinctly, his mouth full. What concern is it of yours? We should like to know who the courier was who brought the item about the desecration of the temple, Mucius said. That's confidential information, Megabates said curtly. He sharpened the knife on the edge of the bowl and cut himself a thick slice of bread. Please tell us, Mucius pleaded. Who are you anyway? Megabates demanded. Mucius Marius Domitius. Megabates looked up, startled. Domitius? Are you by any chance related to His Excellency, the Honorable Tribune Domitius? He is my father, Mucius said as modestly as possible. Megabates jumped up, choked down his mouthful of bread, and bowed low. Forgive me, young sir. Why didn't you say so at once? Has your father sent you? Mucius nodded. A lie at a time like this didn't really count. After all, his friend's life was at stake. My father, Senator Vinicius, Caius blurted out. Megabates bowed to him also. Of course, he stammered, confused. Any information which is in my power to give, he agreed eagerly. Let me think. Night before last, the report on the desecration of the temple. Oh, yes. I remember now. The courier came rather late, around the 4th hour of the night. The boys threw significant glances at one another. Xanthippus had guessed correctly. He brought a sealed letter, Megabates continued, with the words very urgent on the outside. I opened the letter and found the report on the desecration of the temple. It was written in shorthand, but it was long, extremely long, and therefore a great nuisance to us. I personally would have liked to have told the courier to get out. Why didn't you? Antonius asked. Why, how could I do that? Megabates exclaimed in alarm. The courier was sent by His Excellency, ex-consul Tellus. Ex-consul Tellus? The boys cried in amazement. Yes, Megabates said, by ex-consul Tellus in person. I don't know if you remember who that is, but we're going to learn more about ex-consul Tellus. We did see him in the first chapter, briefly. Hey, well, these birds are getting on my nerves right now. The feathers are flying. It's causing me to almost sneeze and get itchy. Well, we'll see you tomorrow. I think that's today's Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow, and we'll get tomorrow going, and the story will continue. And I hope you guys are having a good time with it. All right, we'll see you later. Take care. Bye-bye. Be safe.